Okay, so today's lesson, we're going to do just a quick value study. In a value study, you're just breaking things down into somewhere between 3 and 7 shapes so that you can see the level of distance in a piece. I work from photographs. Generally, photographs are really bad to work from because the values are all messed up. So you have to change the value system. So what I'm going to do on this one, the first thing I do with a painting is I establish the horizon line. And you notice with this photograph, there is no horizon line. There's just this V in here that kind of starts up in here, drops down over here. So this right-hand thirds cross is probably a good spot for a center of interest. So see, I've now got the canvas divided into 2 shapes. I'm drawing with my cool mud. Now I see this little faint mountain coming in here from the side, kind of comes across, and then there's another one you can barely see. Now I don't want to have this big V in here, so this mountain is just going to almost disappear, and then I'll do something down here with this one to make it a little more interesting too. So I'm going to have basically one. This will include the trees and stuff. I'll just stick one of these. I've got these tree shapes in here. And this first, my foreground verticals, that's what I'm putting in first. My foreground verticals are going to be my darkest value. Right now I'm not paying attention to value right now. I'm just sketching things in. Trying to capture the rhythms and things in the photograph. Most all of this whole front area across here is vertical. So this is going to be my darkest value. Things standing upright in the foreground tend to be the darkest value. Let me see here, get this in here. So this basically is my sketch. I've got the trees. And all this foreground area will be one shape. This mountain will be 2 shapes. This mountain will be 3 shapes, which will kind of merge into the sky for the 4th shape. So this is going to be this. I want a real hazy look to this. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'll take out a little bigger brush, and now I'm going to get into my cool mud, a little bit of paint medium. By the way, don't use paint thinner for your paint medium. Get a commercial. Like I use Liquin or Liquid Glaze or Graham Pigments. Recommend walnut oil. There's any number. Grumbacher has some paint mediums. Mix your paint with a paint medium. It helps with the drying. Makes the paint a little thicker usually. But so anyway, I'm taking my cool mud. And I'm taking a little bit of cool blue and cool yellow. I want a real dark, kind of a muddy green. And I'm going to start in here. Start this. I'm just going to block in this first shape. Everything is vertical here. So I want everything dark. This is my darkest value. Darkest value on any painting you're working on is things that are standing upright in the foreground. I'm going to put, I don't want to put a lot of detail in these trees because it's going to make it real hard to cut the background in around them. And if you're just starting, this is one of the early pieces you're doing. The reason I start with, there's a few reasons for starting with the dark value in the front. One, the lighter colors are opaque, so I put those on. If I try to put dark colors over light colors, it seldom works. 2, my dark colors, see I've keyed this is almost like music, I've keyed my value. I've keyed the value, all of my rest of my values will play off of this dark value. What I'm going to do now is, I'm looking over here at this mountain on the right. Now I'm going to put a little bit of white in that and a little bit of blue. I want everything tends, this is strong, it tends to get lighter and bluer as it goes back. Now I'm going to start down here. See, I have to touch these colors. And I don't know if you can tell it on the screen. I'm really close. I'm close in value there. I want a bigger jump in value here. So, see, I'm not starting this mountain up here because I don't know what that value relationship is between those. I have to get down here, you know, especially if I'm using values that are close together. I have to get down here where I actually touch the colors together to see what the actual value relationship is. And this mountain on the right gets lighter and bluer than this mountain in the foreground. It also gets a little bit lighter as it goes up. It's coming up, it gets lighter. One, it's coming into more light as it goes up. Two, it's moving away from the viewer. That slope is going away from the viewer. And you communicate that to the viewer by making it lighter as it goes back. Your vertical values always tend to go back, to get lighter as they go back. Now I want to go to this hill back here. Now I'm going to put quite a bit of white in that. I want a little more blue. I want this going back into space. And so now I've got to touch these colors together. I've got to touch this color with this mountain color to make sure it's lighter. So now I'm making this color go back into space. And see, one of the things that painting this way too forces me to deal with negative space. See, I have to, see, the trees on this are kind of the subject matter of the painting, but the spaces between the trees are where the composition lives. So see, I've got kind of a triangle here. I got a little dot right there. I've got a wide space here, a narrow space here. I want to make sure that all of those spaces between the trees are different from all the other spaces between the trees. Okay, so there's, let's see if I get that. And then also this it won't be quite so noticeable, but this mountain will also get a little lighter as it goes back. Okay, so now I've got this shape, this dark shape for the foreground, this mid-tone here for the mid-ground, and now I'm going back to the background, and then from there I'm going back to the sky. And I'm going to, what I want to do here, I'm putting even more white and a little more blue. I'm going to put just a tiny bit of red in it, just so I have a tiny bit of color variation. So now I'm going to test the color right there. And it's off, I'm going to need just a tiny bit more white. Put this in so that I can, so you can now see I come down and I touch that color. If I'm looking here to here, I can't tell what the difference is. But if I get down here and actually touch that color, I can see that I'm just barely lighter. So my sky is just barely lighter than that mountain, which is it's a fun technique sometimes to make that mountain, that background mountain, be almost to the sky value. That really makes that mountain go back into space. So now, since this is a hazy thing, normally, a normal sky, I would start with warm blue down at the bottom and make it cooler and cooler as it goes up. But I'm not, I want this to be a real hazy, almost smoky kind of an atmosphere. But it still may get a little darker as it goes up because I'm going to see more sky. All this haze down here will be bouncing light around, and it'll be a little lighter down in here than it is up here at the top. So there's my painting blocked in, and I really kind of like what's going on. I have to get in a little closer to this tree, I don't want to get too close to that tree because I'll end up getting my sky dirty if I get that tree color out into my sky. So if I'm outside painting, I get now my canvas is covered with paint. So now I can start judging the other things that the painting needs. Now I'm looking at this and it's really pretty boring. I know this lesson is just about value study, but I think I'm going to get a little carried away here. I'm going to take a little bit of warm red and white and a little bit of yellow. I just want to make this a little more exciting. So I'm going to, let's see, I think I want that to be a little redder. When you're doing something like I'm doing now, trying to do a light in the sky, it's always helpful to err on the side of red. Red really kind of is a little friendlier color. It tends to it tends to soften the viewer. If you get too much yellow, it starts to take on a kind of a weird mustard look, which can look really harsh. Okay, so see I have just a little bit of a glow back in there. I'm going to I want to get a little thicker paint on the sky up here. I know these little studies are not intended to be finished paintings, but once you get into them, they kind of take over a little bit. Now, a little trick I've learned. Now, one of the things I can do here, let's see, I'm going to take a really, really clean brush, maybe a smaller brush. Let's see here. I'll try this same brush. Now I'm going to take a little bit of warm yellow, a little white, and I'm going to put a little tiny bit of cool yellow in it. That really just kind of helps to make it a little brighter. And I'm going to put just a little bit of the sun kind of peeking through that. I don't want to get carried away here with there. So now I'm going to clean the brush out again, take a little bit of this red and just kind of work some, well, hey, I like that color. It kind of adds another element in here. So now I have a little more interesting sky coming up here. Okay, so now I'm going to clean my brush out. Grab a little bit smaller brush, and now I'm going to go back and see in my palette I'm going back to the color I used here. See, always mix a little extra color. So after you're through with your block in, you can come back in here and find that same color easily, and put just a little bit more on that. I want that to really feel like it's a hazy, the mountain is almost disappearing into the haze. Now I can come down, now I've got more of that color of the next mountain right in there. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking my brush and I'm loading it with paint. And I'm turning it over and over and over until I get this nice knife edge on it. Then I can come over here and I can start just kind of playing up and down and get the sense. I want to have some rhythms going on here. I want to have some things going taller and shorter, but I want to just see. I want those little tiny hairline edges so that it looks like pine trees just poking up above the surface. Now this has to get a little darker, remember, as it comes down. So as I come down over here, doing the same thing, I just want to get just these vertical streaks. There's no sense putting any detail of trees in there because the viewer would never see trees that far away. Get a little bit in between these. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so now I'm going to go to these tall trees. So now I'm going to go back into my original darkest color. But there's a few little tricks to this too. Okay, I'm going to start with this tree up here. Now I'm testing my paint color against that background. Now what's going to happen here, see, if I'm going up to paint the top of that tree, I'm going to put a little bit of white in this. See, as this tree goes up into the light, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sharpen my brush and get a real nice knife edge up there. And then I'm going to start coming down with just little brush strokes. I want to just kind of emulate the tree. Here's where I'm, even here, yes, I'm painting the tree, but more than that, I'm just kind of looking for little areas of canvas tone that I haven't got to yet. I want to get the canvas pretty well covered. Now, okay, now I've got that tree down to there. Now I want to darken this a little bit. I want the same contrast here that I have down here. Since this color is darker, I want the tree color to be darker. So as that tree color comes down, down now into the, in front of that other mountain, it gets darker as well. Then the same thing will happen. Now I'm going to bring all of these trees down to that same level. First step, I sharpen my brush. I take get a little vertical, I just barely touch my brush to the canvas. And then I just start doing little brush strokes back and forth. Now remember, pine trees are not symmetrical. Now see, that pine tree is starting to crowd the top of that mountain. I either have to have that pine tree shorter or taller. So I don't want it to stop right at that mountain, because then that's just a really awkward place for it to stop. So there. So everything that's up here, now I've got another tree coming up the side here. One of the things I'm paying attention to here also is my negative spaces. I show that space, this space, this space. Okay, now I've got to go back. I'm getting this lighter color up in here. Working with a canvas this small can be kind of challenging to get the brush strokes tiny enough. And I'm going to do this little tree over here. Now, see, now as I come down, I'm going in front of that mountain again, there. So this tree gets a little darker as it comes down. There's another tree in here. I've got these, and and part of my brain keeps paying attention to these negative spaces. That's where my rhythms are. That's what really makes the painting, are these shapes between the objects. Now see, I'm coming down in front of this other dark area, cool mud with some cool blue and cool yellow. No white. I just want full strength dark in here. And see, and I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but having this graded value down here really makes a difference. As much as you can, you're never going to get the same contrast up here that you have down here. There's much less contrast down here, but you still want to pay homage to the light, to this tree gets lighter as it goes up into the light. Now I'm getting much more involved in these little things than I intended to, because I want to do just quick value studies, but at the same time I get caught in wanting to do a good painting. Now see, I've got three amigos setting up here. I've got this tree, and it's sitting next to this tree, and it's next to this tree, and you see this space, and this space are about the same. And that's what makes them amigos, or at least I call them amigos. When you find yourself trapped in a situation like this, an easy way out of it is to put another tree in, and like I'll come over here and put a tree I don't want to put the tree halfway between those two, or I'll just end up with 4 amigos. I'm going to put another tree right up next to that tree. So then, see, that gives me just enough that I break up that amigo look. That you get that amigo look. 3 things the same, 3 trees the same, with the spaces between them being the same, and your painting takes on a real amateurish look. Now what I'm going to do is just take, I'm going to take a little white, maybe a little red. Make this. I've got some purple, cool red, and I'm just going to put some shapes in here just to give some. I don't want this just to be left alone. It's too big of a space, so I can, just some brush strokes in here to make it look like there's maybe some rocks or something down in here. Okay, so there we go. Just in a few minutes. See, I've gone from really a pretty boring, flat picture to kind of a fun painting, a fun, colorful painting. So have a lot of fun with this one. You can get a little carried away with color if you want, but try as much as you can. Keep it simple. Keep it really simple. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 values. That's all this is. And when you're doing these, try to take photographs that are fairly simple to start out with, and then gradually increase the complexity of your photographs. But the more of these you do, the faster you will learn to paint. This is the stage. If you're doing like a 36-48, you have to get it to this stage first before you move on, before you start finishing it, painting it, putting in detail. When you go to, you've probably been to amateur art shows where you'll see a painting that's obviously the artist has painted for years. Their brush handling is good. Their attention to detail is incredible, but something doesn't quite hold together. It's not professional looking. That's generally that there is not a believable atmospheric perspective. With this method of painting, you put the atmosphere in first, and then you build the picture within that atmosphere that you've established. So have a ball. Do a few hundred of these. It's much cheaper to make all your mistakes this size than it is to do it big.